Hello all. This is a PDM meeting with a focus, as you can see, on our teaching triangles. So you'll be very familiar with our CPD structure. It has 3 strands. So our green light classrooms, just popping into other lessons and seeing different forms of practice. Our 15-minute forums, which we record along with our green light classrooms, and our teaching triangles, which are group of 3, reciprocal classroom visits, but we use research to inform practice, make a tweak in that practice. Others observe, and we kind of collaborate and discuss the effectiveness of the changes or impact on our lessons. So those are the 3 strands to our CPD structure. You'll know that from some of the feedback from last year, your suggestions was really, it was quite tricky to observe other people in the Green Light Classroom week. So what we've done is clearly borrowed really quite extensively from Jay and the Google Influencers and their Google Influencers electronic T&L newsletter. So we've borrowed their idea. And what we've done is we've added in the Green Light Classroom, so those recordings, one of the 15-minute forums, and then obviously change the podcasts, really to just help ensure that you can access any of that CPD on offer. And the podcasts are just, again, trying to ensure that we're the ones reading the research and you can listen to them. So none of those CPD, either the 15-minute forums or those podcasts, are anything longer than 15 minutes, so that you are still getting all the benefit of that evidence, but obviously it's really aware of your limited time and your workload. So both of the issues are there if you wish to have a look at them. It will be the same structure, but bear in mind the podcast and things will change, and so will the Google Green Light Classrooms here in the corner. Watch a lesson. So, teaching triangles, you'll see this timetable was on the front cover of all of your teaching triangle paperwork. All of the triangles should be on your faculty classrooms for you to access at any time, so it should all be in exactly the same place, so it's really easy to find. Obviously, there's a slight amendment because we didn't have a meeting on the 4th of December. We had a little tweak there. It is the 6th of December, which is what we changed that to. But you'll see the December is for person 1, person 2 is January, March, person 3, May to June. So the purpose of this meeting is for you to arrange this week or after this PDM to really agree what person 1 is going to implement in their lesson, and when the other 2 members of that triangle are kind of come and observe. Be it a remote observation, you record the lesson and the 3 of you watch it together. That's been really, really popular. Just record on your Chromebooks using Screencastify, or you just pop in, leave your group busy for 10-15 minutes and come and watch that lesson. And then again, the form is on your Google Classroom, but it's really there as a document just to collaborate and make notes and just be a central point for all your notes to feedback when you create your posters at the end of the year. So meetings this week so that you are arranging your triangles. It's really important that those observations take place before the 24th of January, just so that obviously person 2 then has a cycle of looking at tweaking and looking at research strategies, and then you've obviously got the time in March to implement. So it might be worth considering using Rosenshine's principles, either one of the strands or looking at one of these specific areas. Given that Rosenshine's principles is a theme throughout this year in our teaching and learning, and nationally it's proven to be obviously very, very key, you might want to consider looking at chunking, so really small pieces of material with a little bit of practice after each new chunk or piece of material. What kind of ways are you going to get them to practice? Or those models or worked examples. Now, I know as teachers we use a lot of model and worked examples, but you might want to consider how you could do more of that. Is it worth you considering those Screencastifies to create YouTube videos? So once you've created them, you have a bank of all those YouTube videos, and therefore you've reduced your workload in future. We set one a week for our students, so one for research methods and say one for our core topics. So ultimately really get one per topic, but 2 a week. And it just means that the students are getting as much recall and modelling as humanly possible. The other thing you might want to consider in terms of scaffolding and support is an exam spec or a spec check. So students being given a copy of the exam spec in kind of gridded form, and each time they complete a section of the exam spec, they summarise it in here. It generally means when they're doing recap in your lesson, they've got that spec check to help support them. It's also incredibly good for revision, and it also helps you and the students be really clear about everything they need to know. We students tend to find it really helpful because it's really good support and scaffolding. So if they're doing exam questions and they want to go back and just check terms, it really does help. We do quite a lot of spec checks. So that might be worth considering. The other thing in terms of Rosenshines you might want to look at is practice. So again, a lot of the research, and Rosenshine's principles is proven to be really popular because it takes that kind of research on memory and it combines it with master teachers practice. So what teachers do who have the most impact upon students. And one of those key things to focus on is guided practice. So getting the students to play with the material as much as possible before they get anywhere near an independent practice. And one of the things Rosenshine and Tom Sherrington has really started to focus on in this whole idea of shortening any feedback loops. So guided practice being on a lot on whiteboards and things, but looking at live marking to shorten feedback loops. So if I show you, I've really been trying this out this year. So my students are doing a 5 marker on their whiteboards. And you'll see here, they're starting to do definition. I'm going to walk around. And they're literally writing the 5 marker on the whiteboards. And then I can check for errors. So here, just going to pause this a second. This student hasn't finished the definition, hasn't said revisits at regular intervals. So what I'm doing is saying you need to add in here for me. What else do we add to it to just develop that point to get the mark? And they will write the whole 5 marker on the whiteboard, and I will go around constantly checking, making sure, okay, that top one's the mark, that's fine. And what it means is, if I show you another example as well, is that errors aren't ingrained. So they haven't got through the end of the 5 marker and have gone wrong right at the start. So you see here, I can read the 5 marker because they're very good now at showing me their boards, and I can check for errors constantly. It also means they're much more likely to use my feedback. It's live. So if I say, oh, no, you've just confused that, just stop that there, they can just rub it off and add to it. So that's his whole point about shortening the feedback loop. It means they're acting on my feedback because they're doing it on the whiteboards and they can. Sometimes students don't generally want to act on the feedback when they finish the 5 marker because you're giving them feedback that went wrong all the way back there, and they've got kind of no real, what benefit is there for them to rub all of that out and start again? So live marking helps shorten those feedback loops with the student. So again, here I'm explaining to her, you're combining 2 points together. We could separate it out and get 2 different marks. So I'm going to go to the student, and then if I look back, I can see she's rubbing out the bit to turn it into 2 clear marks rather than combining it together for 1. It also means I can check for errors as a group. So if the whole group is misunderstood, you're confusing these 2 things, they literally pause, I go through it on the board, go through it, clarify, and then they carry on. So it's considered to be much more impactful than if they just write it in their books. It might be worth trying it. I give them the same time they'd have in the exam. You'll see them using quite a lot of the scaffolding, definition, 2 clear points, and so on. But I've actually found it really useful. Ask the students; they generally prefer it. They don't obviously do all of the marking live. They'll have independent practice in their books as well. But I find it's a really good way to check for errors and check for understanding. So I really hope that showed you the other tab. Okay, so as I say, we've got our Teaching and Learning podcast. James and I have done one on strand 1 of Rosenshine's principles. So that is that chunking for you to have a listen to. Again, it's no longer than 15 minutes, and we're taking what the evidence says and we're trying to link it to our practice for you. So as always, we're really conscious of your workload. So instead of you reading the book, we've kind of summarized it there for you. The link is just down the bottom down here for you to access it should you wish. Okay, as I said, the purpose of this week is for you to meet in your teams. I'm hoping that some of those ideas might be interesting and might be worth you trying out. As always, if you do have any questions at all, please let me know, and I'll be happy to help. Thank you.